our kitchen here at Trails End 62. Today we're going to be canning tomatoes fresh from the garden. We picked some tomatoes this morning. We got enough that we can run them through the canner and can some tomatoes. We've picked some over the last few days, but we've got enough to be able to can. So we're going to go through the process of canning tomatoes, how we can them, and the process we go through. I'll be doing crushed tomatoes rather than whole tomatoes because you get more tomato in the quart. With crushed tomatoes, we do cook them a little bit, but you don't have to add any water to them like you do whole tomatoes. If you just can tomatoes whole and put them in there, you have to add boiling water to it. So you're actually increasing the water content of the tomatoes. But doing crushed tomatoes is 100% tomatoes in the processing. So we're going to do crushed tomatoes. We'll be doing them in quarts today. And we will be pressure canning them rather than water bath canning. Some people do water bath can. That's where you put them in a pot, you cover them with boiling water, and you boil them underwater for so long. We use the pressure canner primarily because it helps sterilize the product, sterilize everything that's in the jar. It helps preserve it for longer and makes it more, seals the jars better, and it makes it more, I believe it just makes it last longer, and it'll be better and taste better in the long run. So in case you have them a little longer than what you might normally want to carry them, they'll carry through longer being pressure canned than they will water bath. So again, we want to preserve the product is the reason we're doing this, and so we do add lemon juice to our pressure canning. Some people say that you don't have to. I add it anyway because you have to raise the acidity. Tomatoes these days are not quite as acidic as they used to be. Especially the hybrid tomatoes. Now the heritage tomatoes or the heirloom tomatoes, they may be just a little bit more acidic than the hybrid tomatoes are, but nevertheless, I put the vinegar in. You sure need to use the vinegar if you're going to water bath them, because you're not doing the sterilization process with the pressure canning with the water bath. So you for sure need to add the acid, citric acid. I use lemon juice. Bottled lemon juice is just fine, almost 100% lemon juice. I use that and add to each quart that I can, or each half gallon or each pint, whatever you use. And especially if you're going to water bath them, you need to make sure you add that lemon juice. But I do it even with the pressure can. So we're going to pressure can tomatoes today, see how many we've got, and we'll go from there. Let's get started here. Okay, we started off by washing our tomatoes. This is tomatoes we're going to be canning today, and I wash my tomatoes. Basically, I use baking soda. This is our baking soda shaker. It's a sugar shaker, but we put our baking soda in here to shake it on our tomatoes. Wash our tomatoes in water, and then rinse them off, and then they're ready to go. And the first thing we're going to do after we've washed them is to remove the peeling and core of the tomatoes. Now to do that, you first have to put the tomatoes in boiling water, then in ice water, and we'll get that in just a second. Alright, just a little aside here. I'm going to get me some tea started here before I get going. It's thirsty work here canning. And basically I'm going to show you a method here. This is extra, don't cost you anything. This is cold brewed tea, and basically all I do is I put my tea bags in my jar. I use a half-gallon jar. Some people use well, the wife's got some pitchers she uses too, but I use these half-gallon jars, and I put 7 tea bags per half-gallon. Now these particular tea bags are a mixture of green tea and black tea. And I simply put them in the jar, 7 bags to half a gallon. And then I fill it up with water, just cold water. Now these are regular tea bags. I didn't pay extra for the cold brew tea bags. You don't have to. Any tea bag will work with this, by the way. And I just fill it up with cold water. And you've heard of making sun tea. Well, this is dark tea. There won't be no sun with this. But it's just filled up with cold water. Then I put me a lid on it. And see, it's already started turning a little bit. And then we just take this and I stick it in the refrigerator, and I get my other one out. I just took the tea bags out of this one, and this one just been overnight. It don't take too long, and there you have cold brewed tea using regular tea bags. In my case, this is green tea and black tea, and I just took these tea bags out of this one, letting them drain there. And it's real simple. You don't have to heat up any water. You don't have to use hot water. Don't have to let it cool. And you just put your cold water in there, put it in the refrigerator, and it will make tea. There you go. That's just a little side note for you. Didn't cost you a thing. Okay, here we go. We're ready to get started now. And we're going to take a few tomatoes. I do these a few at a time. There's about 5 of them. And we're going to take these over here, and we'll put them in our pot of boiling water, and we leave them in there for 1 minute, or a little less than a minute. Alright, looks like our 1 minute, and we dish them out here, and you can see they're getting kind of wrinkly. Then we're going to bring these over, put them down here in cold water. I got a little bit of ice in there. Doesn't take very much. And then from there, they get cold, and then we'll take them over here, core them, and as you'll see, the skin just peels right off of them there. So we'll take all the skin off, because the skin tends to get tough when you can them. Cut off any bad spots they might have. There we go. Then I'm going to take them over here, just kind of slice them a little bit, cut them up. Anyway, that's how we do it. Boiling water for about a minute, maybe a little less, and you'll find that the skin will just peel right off of them. Put them in cold water, a little bit of ice in it. We'll finish doing these. It's a little time consuming right here. I'm not going to bore you with the entire process of getting the skin off of all these tomatoes we got here, but just wanted to show you how easy it was and how to do it. So if you're doing whole tomatoes, or even, you know, if you're canning just tomatoes, you can quarter them like that, or leave them whole, or however you want to do it. Put them in the jars, but I'm doing crushed tomatoes. It's actually faster when Mama's here to help, but Mama's not here today, so it's just me, so I'm having to do all this myself. She usually does the hard stuff. I do the easy stuff. That's just the way I roll. Alright. Okay. That's it. We're going to do the rest of these tomatoes. We'll do them in batches of 5, and then we'll get back with you after we get them all peeled and ready to crush. Okay, here we have all of our tomatoes chopped up. I've just started putting some into the pot here, and this would be further along if my wife Juanita was here helping out, but since I'm on my own, it's not. Normally I'd have this started and heated up and all this stuff in there already, but I've just got it finished up peeling the tomatoes and cutting them up, and I've got my canner over here ready to go, and I've got my lids boiling water back there ready to put the lids in. And now we put the tomatoes in, and then we're going to mash them up to get started here. Now they say that once you get it started heating, you don't have to mash these up anymore, you just put them in. But I generally mash them up just as I go along anyway. So we're going to heat this up, bring it to a boil, and get them ready to can. And like I say, normally they say You can add these in as it's heating up and it'll break them down, and it will. I just like to make sure mine gets crushed good. Make the juice flow so that when I put them in the jars, it'll be easy to put in the jar. I won't have to worry too much about it. But when you get this boiling, most of this stuff will cook down. It'll take a little while to get to boil. And this is making crushed tomatoes, and we're going to can those in our pressure canner. So we've got our jars over in the sink, soaking in scalding water. They've been run through the dishwater washer and cleaned, sanitized. And we've got a pot back there. We boiled the water and put our lids in there, soften them up. We'll get these tomatoes going, bring them to a boil, just right to a boil, and let them simmer for about 5 minutes. We'll boil them for 5 minutes, and then they'll be ready to put in the hot jars and ready to put in the canner. All right. Okay, we're ready to get started here. We've got our tomatoes all ready to go. 15 minutes is up. Just about put that down in the tomatoes. Alright, now we've got our jars ready. Just took them out of the hot water. Got our lids here ready. Got our canner going. And we're ready to start filling our jars. First thing we're going to do is lemon juice. I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of lemon juice per quart. And this is just to increase the acidity. Helps in the preservation of the product. Makes it last longer. And then we're ready to put in our tomatoes. Now what we'll do is we'll fill these up about a 1/2 inch from the top. Now if you look at these, the rim right here is about 1 inch. And so we'll fill these up to just above that rim right there. Okay, once we get the jars all filled, then the next thing we'll do is we'll wipe the lids off. We don't want anything on the lids. We want it to seal good. So we always wipe your lids off. If you're canning meat or something like that, you need to wipe them off with vinegar. Otherwise, just a wet rag will do. Preferably a lint-free rag, because then you don't leave anything on the rim. And we'll get that wiped off. And then once that's wiped off, then we put our flats on. We'll put those in our hot water. You bring your water to the boil for the flats, and then you shut it off. You don't boil your flats. Just get it hot to boil, turn it off, and then put your flats in it. Set them on there. Screw our bands on. Snug. Finger tight, not too tight, but they need to be pretty tight. And then we're going to set those in the canner. And they're pretty hot, so we're going to use our tongs. Set these down in our canner. Heating the water up. Now we'll turn it up to high. Put our lid on and wait for it to start venting the air. We'll let it vent for 10 minutes. Once it's achieved vent status, in other words, we're going to let it start venting. It'll start bringing the steam out here. I checked that, make sure it was clear, and then I have a vent here in the lid that when it reaches up to where it needs to be started counting 10 minutes, this will shut off. Vent will continue, steam will continue to come out here, and then this will shut automatically with the pressure, and then I start counting 10 minutes once this is shut, and then after 10 minutes then I'll put on my weight. And here where I am, I'm above 1,000 feet, so I can at 15 pounds of pressure. Below 1,000 feet you use 10 pounds of pressure. Read your instructions on your pressure canner. Anyway, here we go. We'll just let her heat up now, and we'll be ready to can. Okay, here we are, ready to put on our weight. The steam's been rolling out of there all right for about 10 minutes. Now we're going to slap our weight down on there and wait for it to build up pressure, and it'll start jiggling, and then we're going to set our timer for 15 minutes, and we'll pressure can it for 15 minutes. Add 15 pounds here, 1,000 feet above sea level. Alright, we're going to let her go, and I'll show you the finished product when it gets done. In the meantime, I've got some dishes to do. And there we have it, 7 quarts of crushed tomatoes. They're still a little warm, and I'll let them sit overnight and check the seals, take the rings off and wash the tops. Date them and put them up till we're ready to use them. Well, that's it. Till next time, from our kitchen to your kitchen. God bless.